everyone have a drink in hand? Hello, everyone. Hi, I love getting energy back when I give it. Can I get a hello back? Thank you, thank you. We'll do this all night, so be prepared. My name is Andrea Ambam. I'm the Director of Programming and host of More to Talk About at Level Forward. Thank you so much for being here at this More to Talk About, inspired by Women's History Month with these badass women playwrights, people in the world. Yes, give them a round of applause. Martyna, did you call it the Sassy Lady Panel? Okay. So we may do a rebrand. So I'm so glad you all are here for this conversation where we'll get into the stories, the journeys, the lived experiences of these incredible writers on stage. We will have time for audience questions later on, so be thinking about that as we begin. And just generally, just so you know, More to Talk About is Level Forward's audience engagement platform where we think about how to use story to ignite culture shift. So tonight we're going to be thinking not just about the incredible stories and plays and worlds that these women have generated, but also what that means for the real world that we're living in right now, which is very much alive and active, as I know you all know. So I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for being here. And without further ado, I'm going to ask each of our panelists to say your name, your pronouns, and your role in the world before we get started with our first question.
My name is Eisa Davis, and I use she, her pronouns. And for me, she is a feminine principle that encapsulates all genders. And my role in the world, whoa, that's heavy, figuring that out. But I would say that I'm a multidisciplinary artist that works in multiple aesthetics, and we'll talk about all of that. I'm here to try to help understand why we're here and how we help each other and how we care for each other. I feel like that's a role that I have in my work.
Hello, this woman. I'm Martyna Majok, she, her, but I also want to jump on that, yes, that all of the feminine divine. I'm a playwright, librettist, screenwriter. I role in the world feels like I feel a sense of purpose when there is a feeling when I've connected with somebody that has engaged with something that I've written that made me actually feel really embarrassed or cost me something, in moments when I have felt very, very alone or received messaging from the world that I didn't matter and shared that out in the world and received that back. And so I feel like I feel most purposeful when I can excavate those sort of moments when I felt that I didn't matter, shared it with the world, asked them, you too, and received that back. And hopefully at the end of whatever our time spent together, we've all felt less alone and more emboldened to go out into the world.
Hi, my name is Ming, Peiffer, she, her pronouns. I'm a playwright, screenwriter, a lot of other things. I debated on putting in my bio activist, and I felt weird about it, but then I was actually looking at my history of the ways in which I've sort of been speaking out about, various injustices my entire life. And so I just need to deal with the discomfort that for some reason I have around calling myself an activist, even though I've literally been engaging in that for many, many years now. So that's something I want to kind of interrogate for myself.
Can we give them a round of applause, please? Ming, I just want to say that earlier we talked about, being a truth teller, and I also see you as that and see all of you as truth tellers through your work. I want to start with asking you about your playwriting origin story. How did you become who you are today? The award winners, the nominees, the multidisciplinaries. Eisa, you had a reaction, so you have to go first now.
Oh, well, I think, theater, you never choose theater, right? It just comes and grabs you. And the only choice you ever make is to leave it. And that's not something I have done. It's very difficult to do, should you even want to, right? But for me, theater is it's a mother art, right? It's just the place where it's right in here. This is a stage, and You know, I could tap dance on the stage. I could sing on this stage. I could start speaking some poetry on this stage. I could build a beautiful sculpture on this stage. Theater can hold it all, right? And so theater for me began after dinner, making shows, living room shows, right? I mean, I'm sure so many folks who are in theater, like this is what you did. It's just like, you grab other kids and you start making up all kinds of routines, and that's what I did, you know, as a kid. And I think the first play I was ever in was The Wedding Band by Alice Childress, and then I think my next play was I was Bilbo Baggins in The Hobbit, and these were formative experiences with an incredible language. And I think that's a huge part of what I love about theater, is that it is this sanctuary for the word. It's a place where we can really spend time in dialogue, but also to a heightened level that sometimes is almost Olympic, you know. And what actors do on stage is Olympic to me, you know. So I think my theater origin story is that I felt an absolute inner compulsion to do it, and then I think it became something that I needed even more as I was training as a classical pianist, and I grew up in this radical family, and it was a place for this kind of emotional overspill, a place for a kind of ritual release. And I'm still looking for that in the work that I make, the performances that I do, and the work that I see.
I'm gonna go do this. No, I like it. So there's a form. I didn't see theater until like I was 18 years old. I grew up undocumented and with a lot of domestic violence, and so I'd have to like lock myself in my room and do quiet activities to like avoid my stepfather. And I would write. I get assignments to write like 2 pages about whatever, and I would come in with like 25, and my poor public school teachers were like, "That's nice, but they do not pay us enough." And bless them, they like. One time I had written something where I wrote about the abuse that was going on at home, and was sent to the nurse's office to like check if I was okay. And I went back home to my mom and told her what had happened, and she was so afraid of our status, our being separated from her being separated from my sister who was born here, that she told me to go back to school and tell them I lied, and so that I made it up. And so from that moment on, I wrote fiction to sort of process these things that were going on. I, on a whim, like saw my first. I grew up in Newark and like in North Jersey, so it was like the Broadway was like, I could touch it, but I felt like it was not for me. I would just see like people dressed up fancy, and like I just felt like that was not a world for me. But my mom would clean houses, and when she was cleaning houses, she would often bring home pamphlets and magazines and things that people would set out for recycling, because she figured that was free reading material for me and my sister. And one day she got a pamphlet for something called Cabaret. And she didn't know what it was, and I didn't know what it was, but John Stamos was in it. And so for this latchkey kid, she, at the same time, I worked a bunch of part-time jobs in high school, and one of them was I would hustle at a pool hall. And one day I won more money than I had ever had before. It was like $45 fucking, and I thought I was a rich person. And so my mother brings home this pamphlet for something called Cabaret, leaves it in my room, and she was like, "Uncle Jesse's in New York." And I was like, oh shit. And the cheapest tickets were $45. And so on a whim, I went to Studio 54, and I saw like the replacement cast of Alan Cumming, this fucking iconic, Sam Mendes production. And it was the most moving fucking experience to be in a space where people's like humanness was emanating out of them. They filled that whole room with so much life, and it was a story that they were telling that didn't compromise like how difficult it was and its darkness and bodiness and sexiness, and it literally was a welcome in multiple languages to me. Because my little immigrant heart was so happy that they were telling me that I was welcome when I did not feel that for very much of my life, and had to hide and not talk about what was going on. And so then I went to just what it did to me. I wanted very much to do for other people. And so when I got to college and my scholarship and stuff, I started pursuing theater, and I hate writing, you guys. Writing is fucking, we were just talking about it, it's fucking agony. It is so difficult. It's so, like, I don't like sitting for a long time. I don't like minding my fucking demons and like trying to give into a fucking arc that's legible for other people. It fucking sucks. But to be in the rehearsal room with actors and directors, like, that is the little family that you create is like nothing else. You get to like, even just like the fact that people say they're gonna show up at the same place at the same time was so fucking moving to me. It was a first time thing that I was like, I'm never leaving. So I'm in the theater for family. Yeah. That's what I'm like. And to be seen. Yes.
I'm glad I'm wearing these big ass glasses. I'm about to cry. So I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. I went to public school. So like I knew Shakespeare was a thing, and I knew musicals were a thing. I actually was in I was Millie in Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, which that is a rowdy musical. It's literally, there's a song called Sobbin' that's all about them like stealing women and tying them up while they're crying. It's like sobbin', 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 fit to be tied. It's like, it's really crazy. Anyways, I have like a picture of me, the only person of color, like cradling a white baby, while like the girl Carrie, who usually got the main role, was just like death staring at me. But anyways, so my mom's an immigrant from Taiwan. My dad is like a poor white guy from Cripple Creek, Colorado, like trailer parks. And so I just, I was aware of the theater, but I didn't know that like contemporary plays were being written. And because my mom's an immigrant, and because she's literally kind of an embodiment of the American dream, when I went to college, I was like, I'm gonna be pre-med. Usually people are like, oh, did your Asian mom like put you into that? I'm like, no, I weirdly put that on myself. So because I was like decent at science and math, I was like, okay, this is a very like, I can continue my mom's legacy, I can do that. So I was in my calculus class, I was in my like AP chem and this like core AIDS class where I did like build a website that tracked the proliferation of HIV in my hometown, really fun stuff. And so I was like, I'm gonna kill myself unless I do something fun. So my one fun class was a basic acting class. And I went to Colgate University, which everyone goes into finance from that. Like everyone's like, wait, there's a theater program at Colgate? I'm like, barely. And I just happened to have these like really awesome Eastern European Jewish who did a bunch of stuff like Moscow Art Theater, and they just like introduced me to just like really like weird, crazy, like just art. And so the first play I ever acted in was Sarah Kane's Blasted, where if people are aware of that, a baby gets eaten on stage amongst a lot of other things. And I was like, I actually want to do this. So I started off as an actor. I moved to New York. I was actually at Innovative Artists. I was like getting stuff, like unlike some of my peers too. And basically on like the 80th audition where I had to play a sexy librarian or something like that, and just reading, I was like, I'm in the mecca of theater, and I'm like reading these sides. I'm like, this stuff is racist, misogynist, homophobic, and just like bad. Like outside of like everything else, it's just not even good. And so I was like, I'm like done with this. I wrote a role for myself. I literally Googled theater festivals because I didn't go to a school that like knew, I know like at NYU Tisch you get like audition classes. Like I never had like anything like that. So I'm like Googling theater festivals. This theater festival that just happened to came up, Theater for the New City. I don't know if you guys know that place, but it was like really janky. But anyways, I wrote this play where I wrote a role for myself. I acted in it. It just happened to be that summer, the New York Times did a list of all the theater festivals that summer and picked one play from each. For some reason, they picked mine. You know, I didn't even know people had publicists at this time, so I think they just like the title caught their eye. So we ended up selling out that run, which we never did again, but I was so naive. I was like, oh, producing theater in New York's easy. And so, yeah, we made money, which again, we never did again, but I created... I created a theater company, and I was dressing actors in my own wardrobe and begging people's parents for money on Indiegogo. And then the third piece I made was this solo show that I was acting in. It's called The ABC's Guide to Getting Famous, American-Born Chinese. And was just about the lack of opportunity. It was like a satirical guide of how to get famous as an Asian person. And I was like, use an accent, make it thick. But then we juxtaposed that with these real life filmed interviews that we did with Asian actors about them talking about their real life experiences. So of all my work, it was a fine play, but it wasn't really what I wanted to talk about necessarily, but everyone kept wanting to bring that back because it was just so specifically talking about being Asian, and I think that's what they saw of me and saw my worth is speaking about that specifically. So by the third time they brought it back, I was like, I don't want to act in this again. I've already done it twice. What am I really going to get? Of course, every acting experience you can learn something, but I was like, I've already done this twice, and the whole thing about it is it's about the lack of opportunities for Asian people. So I was like, you know what, let's cast somebody else. So we ended up casting this amazing actor, queer dancer, Sai Samboon, and I didn't even change the gender at all of it, and he just made all these choices that I know I never would have, and it just added just so much depth and complexity to the work that wouldn't have happened without that collaboration. And I was like, I actually want to do this. So that's how I sort of decided I'm actually going to write and create opportunities.
Incredible, yes. I'm just listening to you all, just being like, oh my God, little Eisa and little Martyna and little Ming, making these choices and just thinking about where you are now, and just, it's incredible. So whatever impulse or intuition led you to the writing, we are grateful. Eisa, you described yourself as multidisciplinary, and I've gotten the chance to interact with your work at Jack, your solo performance work, your Pulitzer Prize-nominated play, Bulrusher, the Warriors concept album, which you're currently co-writing with Lin-Manuel Miranda, and so your work really is unbound to form. And even though theater is so many things, and as you described, this is a stage and we could do whatever we want right now, there is kind of this industry thing where people who define themselves as more than one thing are often very confusing to others. And it's well, are you gonna go down this way? Are you gonna go in this lane? Or are you go down this lane? So I wanna know your experience of being multidisciplinary in this industry. And then also, can you talk to us a little bit about specifically music and the role that music plays in your writing?
Sure. Wait, did you also act as well? Did you start?
Not well.
You did.
I mean,
I was just curious.
it's the gateway drug to
Yeah.
being
right,
a playwright.
so-
I feel
right.
where you're just I don't know. I thought the same thing. I was after Shakespeare, I figured but once television was invented, I was there's no plays. They just do that. So, but yeah, no. But it was good to be to know what it is to write for a body and be within a body and storytelling.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That wasn't good. Not like you.
But it doesn't. No, but that's the thing is that knowing that is so crucial. I mean, I think that's so. I'm talking about this because I think all of us are multi-hyphenates, and also, like you said, as activists, and I think your work also is there's activism in that. It's just we're telling stories that people need to see. And also imagining worlds that maybe we wouldn't have seen before were it not for that. So it's also, can I just also say, being on Ludlow is hilarious because when I first moved to New York to go to grad school, I went to the New School Actor Studio program. And this is getting to your question. I worked right up the street, 151 Ludlow, which was this store called 555 Soul. I don't know if anyone has ever heard of 555. But that was my first job. It was like folding T-shirts. And also, right across the street from here, I rehearsed the first play that I was ever in New York, which was first two plays. One was a play by Sarah Schulman, and I can't remember the name of it right now. And we did it at Westbeth. And another one was Jack by David Greenspan that we did it here. And but it's just I came here to New York after going to college. Is that what it's called? Right, college, and being in LA for a couple of years as a hip hop journalist, and also acting there. And then I came here for school because I always wanted to move to New York and dance on taxis and in fountains, like in the movie Fame. Like I just was like, that's what you do in New York, is you go and you dance. And that people are real in New York. This is something we were talking about. People will tell you the truth. I was just like looking for that. But I got here to the New School, and I came in as an actor, and I was really taken by the people who were in the actor studio. Right, that was what was exciting to me. That's why I said, oh, let me be in this program. And when we got there, we found out that all of the projects, the final projects, were going to be student-run, student-driven. But there were no playwrights of color at all. And I was kind of like, what? So I'm going to be in a play that's written by someone who doesn't necessarily have any clue about what my cultural background would be if I'm going to be playing someone who has that cultural background. So I and two other of the Black actors went to our dean, who is Jim Lipton, if you ever saw those Inside the Actors Studio shows, and he was our dean. And we said, we have to be playwrights too. We're going to get our masters in acting and in playwriting. And he was like, okay. So that's there's the multi-hyphenate life that I've been living has been both an inner mandate and an outer mandate, where I had to do it. I had to do it. We did. And then I mentioned piano and I mentioned music, and that's another thing too, is just music is something that really drives me. I think it probably, drives all of us. I mean, there's some people who don't like music, and maybe you're here, but maybe don't talk right now, because I find that the way that music works for me, training in that and thinking that way, that means that everything that I create as a writer is informed by those structures, informed by that kind of, I love this term, phatic, which is another way of saying emotional, but a phatic arc. PH, yes, PH. And so, but it's not just the form. It's just the fact that, again, music can just rip you open, take care of you, keep you company, and just completely change the way that you think. And also, musicians themselves, when I think about a Nina Simone, or I think about a Joni Mitchell, or I think about I was just listening to Little Dragon. What's her name? Yukina Fagano, I think is her name. Yukima Fagano. Anyway, all these people are multi-hyphenates. So it's that I'm basically doing what I did when I was 6. All of those things, I've never been able to let go of any of them, And yes, it's confusing to people, and that's fine. You know, that's just fine.
Yeah. Put that on my forehead. The lyricism travels through everything that you do.
Yes, yeah. That's at the center.
Yeah.
And it's also, to me, you know, with lyricism, you know, you have this kind of poetic density that just, again, it always goes to the heart. It helps you pull away the things that you don't need. And of course, with plays, every single comma is only there because it has to be there. You know, you don't have anything that's like extra. You have to keep peeling all of that off. And I love, you know, Athol Fugard, who just passed away. I think about his plays just dramaturgically, like you can bounce a dime on that. It is so tight. And that's what I always am striving for. And I think that comes from the discipline of loving, again, poems, loving lyrics that really have to they only say exactly what they need to say and no more, you know? And hopefully, again, because it's just that, it gives you this kind of epiphanic experience.
Yes. Eisa, with your work, the phaticness, the lyricism, the poetry is so clearly there. And then Martyna, if I were to move to your work, character sticks out like a sore thumb. And you have all
Also sore.
the sore thumbs, those who stick out like a sore thumb know what it's like. We know. And thinking from Sanctuary City to your Pulitzer Prize winning play, Cost of Living, and Tony-nominated, you have these characters at the center of your work that are usually at the margins. And there's Bob Vereni from Variety described you as our Pulitzer Prize winning bard of the underclass experience. And some themes that we've heard in this of like getting to a play and there not being a role for you, or there not being a character that you align with. So characters are such a key part of theater history and whose story gets told. So I'm just curious how you approach character development, how you choose to center who you choose to center.
And when I first also bard of the underclass, it's like tattooed like a tramp stamp
mean,
on my
that's
wrist.
like-
It's very nice. This just like goes around like a belly chain. When I first started writing plays, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Like I'd seen like one cabaret, fucking cabaret, and it wasn't even a play. It was like people were singing, and I was like, "What do you mean?" When I first started writing, I thought I had to write like a movie that you essentially couldn't afford to make, which is not untrue, not untrue. With writing plays, so but I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So I also like when I got to college and first started writing, I was destroying myself. I had left this childhood and got to a safe place, and I was devastated in the safety because I was like, oh, not everyone went through that. And then things just started rattling inside that I didn't quite know what to do with. I started doing destructive, impulsive, horrible things. And it wasn't until I started trying to wrangle some of that stuff into just to be able to hold it and look at it and commune with it. So I would, it wasn't therapy's therapy, but it was like, there was an act of like revisiting something. I would go to an event in my life and then like kind of go backwards and try to understand some of the people whose actions I found most paradoxical, and like try to enter their consciousnesses. And what was beautiful to me about being a playwright was you had to be everybody. There was like a democracy of consciousnesses that you had to occupy. Nobody could really be a villain or a victim entirely, totally. Like, of course there are victims, and of course there are fucking villains. In the world, there are bad people. But like, it just sort of helped me understand people's humanness and that no one knows what the fuck they're doing. And just move forward. There was, like I said, I hate writing. It's such fucking agony. But I don't know how to be as full of a human unless I've gone through the process of, being with these people and their backgrounds and their lives. And so when I first started writing to sort of understand and just be able to, I was like, I had to choose one, destroy or create. And so I was like, I'll try creation. And that did it for me. And I started writing plays about my mom and my people I grew up with. And in this fancy school that I was in, they were like, oh, you're writing about poor people and immigrants and, you know, like ladies. I was like, I guess that's a minority, but okay. So ladies. But I was like, oh, I'm not putting that on. I'm not defining these people in this way, these characters in this way. The dominant culture is. I'm just writing my friends and family, and by also realizing that like I realized early-ish that that's what is going to be. That's how they're going to be received, and so I must like move forward with like deep responsibility about the stories that I am telling. Like everyone has to be a character. There's a way that you can ennoble a character so much that they become so distant that it's almost you're doing the same danger as if you know, like they're just not real to you. So I write characters and people that happen to be XYZ in the world, which it dictates what they can and can't do sometimes, like legislatively and physically, or you know, all these. It's all bound, but I don't. I try to move responsibly. So in telling stories of everybody I've written about has been othered in some way, and that's not. That's the gatekeeper's fault. That's not my fault. But I have to. But I've adopted that. That's what I've inherited. So I try to subvert, not for the sake of it, but because that's what I've experienced, and try to be open to like. Then when you're in the room with actors, that's you know, so that my favorite part is being in the rehearsal room and getting all of these different people's life stories and opinions and responses to something. So when I write a play, it's a hypothesis. I know it's not the truest version of itself that it could be, and it's through the process of incorporating other people that it becomes its truest self. If I had all the fucking answers, I'd write novels in a room by myself. I do not, and I would not want to. I love this. I love moving through with humility, being like, I don't know it all, but let's talk about this. And so hopefully it feels, in that same like democracy of consciousnesses, it feels like a democracy of collaboration. So yeah, all those little things.
Yes. Don't be shy with the claps. Yes. I love that you brought up the dominant narrative. We talk a lot about dominant narratives at Level Forward and how to subvert those and how to dismantle them. But one of the things that we talk a lot about is that underneath a dominant narrative, underneath all those characters who have been relegated to the margins and who we've been told that their stories look like this, or they're the best friend, or they're the sexy librarian, is that actually there are like these thousands and thousands and thousands of deeply nuanced stories. And I see that so much in your work, of these like incredible nuances where you're like, how does someone think of that? And it's like, because it's the living. Oh, it's the living.
Appreciate you. Yes.
It's living. So thank you for your work.
I appreciate you.
Ming. I'm thinking about you because I'm thinking about being a truth teller. I'm thinking about your fire, and I'm thinking about your play, Usual Girls, which was a New York Times critic pick in 2018, had a double extended, sold-out run at Roundabout, and then it also led you to become the first Asian American playwright nominated for Best Play. And so, yes, please, yes to snack.
Which I debated even adding that because I didn't win. So it's like kind of, it's like, well,
I mean,
but it's crazy. Like in 2018, like good for me, I guess. But like upsetting.
Very upsetting.
Like actually upsetting.
Incredibly upsetting. And I'm glad you do list it, because it's like the archive, we're creating the archive now, y'all. Whatever we leave out is out. Whatever we put in is in. If they don't burn it, erase it, ban it, whatever. But like, we just got to keep putting it in. So I appreciate you naming that. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about what Usual Girls is about. And then you as a playwright who writes so ferociously for women and about bodies, what is the importance of these stories of bodies and girlhood right now in this moment, and why are you drawn to them?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's going on politically, it's kind of goes without saying, but I will say it. But yeah, so just to talk about Usual Girls a little bit, it was a very autobiographical, very thinly veiled autobiography. Follows this young Asian American girl, Kyung, and starts on the playground and basically goes through her entire life up until her adulthood and sort of just charts all the sort of inflection moments of her coming of age and sexual awakening and how that was marked, how she went through it herself, but at the same time it was constantly being marked or affected or corralled by the patriarchy, by white supremacy, by heteronormativity, and by rape culture. And so it starts with her kind of telling friends on the playground that her dad has been showing her pornography, to, a situation where her and her friends at a sleepover, sort of a, was it rape, was it not, things happening to the actual aftermath of a rape. And I wrote that a year before, like, the big Me Too, the, like, Twitter, like, one. People were kind of like afraid of it, and then Me Too kind of happened, and it got programmed, and it was celebrated, and and so in terms of talking about bodies and things like that, like, I sometimes find like anecdotes are like better to like describe what I'm talking about, and so my sample for, I work in Hollywood now too, so my sample for a long time, because I didn't have a screenplay, was my play. And my manager called me one day and he was like, hey, I have a story to tell you. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, I was talking to this exec who like read your play. It was like this guy, and I was asking him what he thought about your play. And he was like, yeah, like, it was like cute. And I was like, wait, you thought that was cute? I was like, all right. But he was like, yeah, but come on, really? And he was like, what do you mean? He was like, these girls are like, they're humping their like stuffed animals and like doing that as kids. He was like, come on, like, that's not real. And my manager was like, well, from what I know, like, Ming wrote about this pretty from her like own experience. So like, I haven't asked her like specifically about that, but like, is that real? And so he was just kind of like put it off. And I'm on the phone being like, why are you telling me this story? He's like, I have a point. I'm like, okay, let's get to it. And basically this male exec called him back the next day and was like, I'm an idiot. And he was like, what do you mean? And he had gone home that night because he was clearly feeling some type of way about my play. He was feeling some type of way about this specific scene where these two young girls who, haven't had their periods yet, haven't had sex yet, but basically they're experimenting by humping they're playing this game called Boyfriends, and they're humping their stuffed animals. And he, I guess, went to his fiance, who they had been together for 8 years, and he was like, yeah, I read this thing, and they were talking about humping their stuffed animals, and she was like, oh yeah, I used to do that all the time. So basically what ensued, this woman who he's planning on spending the rest of his life with, who he's spent 8 years with, suddenly they have hours-long conversation about her sexual identity, about who she is, about her coming of age, her sexual awakening, and the fact that he didn't even think about that, or that existed, or like something that people talked a lot about with the play is they were like, oh, she wrote a play about women's sexuality that didn't have a love interest. And, because, so often people are like, even when men or people are getting, galvanized towards the feminist agenda, it's always like, well, I have a mother and I have a sister and and it's like, bro, we exist like outside of our proximity to you. And so I think a huge part of this is understanding that we are human beings, full, complete, total human beings. And we have our own experience that isn't dictated by the external pressures that are constantly trying to corral us and make us small and make us feel that we are not as powerful as we actually are. The reason that they are trying to control our bodies, the reason that they are trying to control how we create the next generation of human beings is because they are fucking afraid. And so I feel...
Sassy lady panel, sassy lady panel, sassy lady.
So I feel the need to say, hello, we are here. I know what my power is. I know what that power is. And we all need to all look each other in the eye and realize that and band together and not let this fucking bullshit continue.
Storm the fucking Bastille tonight. Let's fucking go.
I mean, exactly.
I'm pissed, dude. I'm so mad. I'm big mad, bro.
We should all be really, really mad, but I love that you talked about the fear coming from them. I was at a other panel where someone was like, they're only coming at us this hard right now because we've made some significant gains.
Exactly.
So the fact that you may not know, but you do not have Women's History Month on your Apple or Google Calendar. International Women's Day was removed from your Apple or Google Calendar. So this active attempt at erasure isn't because we're just like kind and cute and don't cause any problems. We cause serious problems by our existence. So there's a lot of empowerment in that, and I love the way you speak about it. And continuing of counteracting the erasure, I want us to take a moment to just name some women and femme playwrights who you are in the legacy of, who you feel because of them you are. And then also to just like zoom out all the way. I'm like super nostalgic, retrospective, but like, what legacy do you think that you're leaving behind right now with your body of work? What do you hope people find when they interact with an Eisa play, a Martyna play, a Ming play, a movie, a piece of music?
I mean,
Eisa went first.
I know. I know. I wanted us to have like a convo.
Throw some names.
We just throw some names out. Yeah, let's just throw some names out.
Sarah Kane. You mentioned Sarah Kane.
Yeah.
The like darkness and like I found her plays in the fucking library one day, and that was like what motivated me to want to fucking do theater. There's something about being 18 years old and finding some Sarah Kane plays where he was like, you can be this.
Yeah.
You can be this inconvenient.
Yeah.
You can be this angry and like all of it.
And in your face.
Lynn Nottage. I mean,
Yeah.
like that's another like beautiful classicist who like tells these gorgeous cathedrals of plays. Like,
yeah.
awesome. Give me some names.
Yeah, no, I want to jump on Lynn Nottage specifically because she was my professor and is now a good friend of mine. But she's the reason I'm sitting here today. Because I wrote the first draft of Usual Girls in her play when I was getting my MFA at Columbia. And so I think, I'm definitely part of her legacy just because her legacy is banging. But also because she is one of the most generous human beings I've ever met. Like, she is all about us banding together, not using just the work, but actually embodying that and creating space for other people and uplifting other voices that are important. And so she was very influential for me on an artistic level, but also just on a human being, personal level, just going out of your way to really shine light in the darkness.
Yeah, Lynn is someone who I've known forever and a day, it feels, because she's always there. She's always there.
She's Mama
showing
Bear.
up for everyone. And I worked with her as an actor. I did all of the original workshops of Fabulation up until the first production. And when I was writing Angela's mixtape, she was the one who came to the very first reading and gave me one note, which was perfect. It was exactly right. And, when she was the person who got me my first job in a room, and I remember going to see Sweat, and I was like, oh, she about to get another Pulitzer right here. And yes, it's unbelievable how generous and present she is, like you said, and that, her that she's working on all of these vectors where she's like reaching back and doing, Lorraine Hansberry project, and she's reaching side to side to her peers and taking care of them and reaching and teaching at Columbia, which of course, I mean, I can't believe she's still, that anyone is able to do anything at that institution in this moment, and she's still there making sure that her students keep getting all of her incredible wisdom. And I have to throw out several names, but Paula Vogel.
Yeah,
Yep.
another teacher,
Paula
teachers.
Vogel.
All of these nurturing
Yes.
people.
And I have so much that I want to say and cry about right now, so I'll get to as much of that as we have time for. But Paula has been such a huge champion of my work, and I was supposed to get a Pulitzer because of her. I don't know if you all know this story. But she was the head of the drama jury for the Pulitzer in 2007 with Ben Brantley and all these other people. And they chose my play to win the Pulitzer. They sent it to the board. This is Bulrusher. They sent it to the board, and the board said, no, we're going to give it to Rabbit Hole by David Lindsay Bear, which was something that hadn't happened before. Sort of like, why was there a jury doing all of this work? And then they give it to another play altogether. Now, of course, that play is great. It had been on Broadway, MTC, Cynthia Nixon, great. Mwah. He's amazing. And he knew that things were a little kind of askance, a little off. And he gave the money to New Dramatists, where I and Chiara Alegria Hudas were members with him. So he, but she is, the fact that she loves this play, I mean, talking about erasure, that is sort of a moment, right, where, again, it's just kind of, I sort of, I still don't quite know how to feel about it, But Paula has always stayed behind that play and just is like, I want to make sure that it is done in the world and that she gets to see it, on Broadway. That's her dream. So I put her out there, not only for what she's done for me, but what she has done for so many artists, not only, as a teacher, but also through her work itself. I mean, How I Learned to Drive, and Indecent, all of her, just most recently, Mother play. And then someone else I got to throw out also is Intozaki Shange. And that's part of my origin story, is I used to say those monologues to my bunk bed. What did I know about, someone?
You walked away with all my stuff.
That's right. Sorry, I don't need another sorry, right? Or talking to the bunk bed, talking about, and he coaxed me, and he dropped my kids out the window. How do I know about that at age 10? But somehow, she, again, a multi-hyphenate, right? Who, she began all of those pieces as poems. It's a choreo poem. She began them as dances that she would do in clubs, and that started in California and came to New York, right? But she's huge. And another person I have to put up there is Adrienne Kennedy, who's been, again, at 90, she's 93. And someone who is honest beyond the point of, it's the kind of honesty that is compulsive, And that is something that, we were talking about how in Hollywood, you don't necessarily find writers with that kind of courage that she had. I mean, to write a play in 1964 that was boycotted and protested by other Black folks because she actually dared to talk about the internalized racism that can happen to all of us, regardless of color. We all internalize all of these
That does happen to all of us.
ideologies. It happens to all of us, right? So, but she's someone who, again, I feel so blessed with these people who have not only blessed the world with their work and their visions, but then continue to give so much to the writers that they love.
They're One more too, Marsha Norman, because like there is like
Yes.
it's these like it costs you to be a teacher. It costs you to be a nurturer. That is time that these people are taking away from their own creations and their bodies of work and their finite fucking lives to like usher other people forth into the future. And that is a godly fucking act. And so Paula, Marsha, like there's so many, there's like a little secret club that I'm like, this isn't being recorded, it's fine. She has an HEO club called Help Each Other. So it's for all lady non-binary writers who are like, the men aren't invited. Like we all just like share resources together to move forward. She's so angry. I love it. She's so sassy and angry about the ways that people have fucked her because of who she is. And she's like, never again. And that is fucking beautiful. There are just so many fucking culture makers who are these like mothers, these like mother playwrights who like make their own work and also like help other writers. That is fucking a beautiful, beautiful act of like political resistance and and massive nourishment that like never gets celebrated enough.
I'm sorry, can I just say I need to say one more name.
Say it.
I need to say one more name. Kathleen Collins. So she's someone who passed at age 46 of breast cancer, and she made this incredible film called Losing Ground. And someone here knows her. Good. Yes. Ah, yes. So, and playwright, also short story writer, but something that is so important to me about her is when you were talking about girls and women and non-binary folk and the way it is, and queer folk, and the way it is that we have to continue to have our own gaze and not center whiteness, not center heteronormativity, not center cisgenderness. Like, we have to keep on finding ways through our work to keep decentering that gaze that we are told is normal and good. We have to keep finding ways where our gaze is the normal and the good. And that can be so confusing again to people, so confusing.
And aspirational. They make it aspirational, like you should want this thing, and
right.
It's hard to be like allowed to tell those stories, not just like, who's the gatekeepers letting you fucking tell them.
Right. And so to me, I think about how bold it is to be quiet. And when I say quiet, I mean not self-centered, testosteronic, ambitious to the point where it's my way or the highway. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about gentleness. I'm talking about a kind of feminine giving and generosity. And so that's when I say quiet, that's what I'm talking about softness. I'm talking about softness. And that's something that I feel is very much in the work that I make, that is, again, decentering that loud gaze and saying there's the softness and the care and the glue of our society is so important for us to keep valuing. And so Kathleen Collins was told with Losing Ground that the white distributors didn't know any folks like the folks in her film, which were a black woman who is a philosophy professor and a black man who was a visual artist. They were like, we don't know any of these people, so we can't distribute this because this just seems like, a fiction, a fantasy. And something that Kathleen also said that I always keep in mind is that, and she developed this argument in talking about Sartre, excuse me, that's my French, terrible French, talking about Jean Genet and this concept of saint and sinner, and that the other is either treated like a saint or a sinner. If we're talking about blackness, for example, a white person is taught to project the guilt, the crimes of ancestors and present folks onto this body as either the sinner, you're the one, and this is going to what you're saying about, the fear, just transmitting that, projecting that onto the Black folk or, the woman or the queer folk and saying, you are responsible for the crime that I'm committing against you.
Yeah, in terms of women, it's the
Same thing.
Madonna or
Right.
horror.
But it's also, maybe you're a saint and the magical Negro, right? Maybe, I'm so amazed that you let us do this to you. I feel so guilty. I want to hang out with you all the time, and you're so cool. You know what I'm saying? And then when you have narratives that are driven by othering someone as a saint or a sinner, then never are they that full human. And that's what we have to do.
Yes.
Is make sure that being ordinary, being soft, being someone who cares, doing that emotional labor is something that is valued.
Yes. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, y'all, don't be mad at me, because I said there was time for audience questions, but then the conversation. No. No. It's so delicious. But I want to take us to our last question, and then we'll end and mingle out of the room, and we can talk more then. But the last question of More to Talk About. More to Talk About operates under the belief that there's always more to do after engaging with art, that it can ignite these emotions in us where we feel seen or where we see someone else's experiences and we're like, what the fuck? And then you have all these emotions that you have, and then what do you do with them? Where do you put them? And if you aren't given a space or a place to talk more about them, that they're probably just going to fizzle out somewhere and go off. And so I usually ask folks what more to do, what more would you offer someone to do after hearing this conversation, but I want to twist it up a little bit because we've also in the past couple of More to Talk About talked a lot about banned books, and I'm just, again, thinking about history and thinking about literature and archives and libraries and how we stay well-read as a people. And so I would love for you each to offer us one play that folks should read after this conversation. They've heard you all. What's your go read this play, and it's going to lead you towards all the other things, whatever, but start here. So many plays.
I'm just gonna go contemporary because there's a lot of historical thing that I think we know we can get a lot from. But 7 Methods of Killing Kylie Jenner.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
7 Methods of Killing Kylie Jenner. It was at the Under the Radar Festival at the Public a couple years ago.
Yeah,
the UK playwright.
They did it in the UK. Yeah. It was kind of a big deal, but I was really fascinated by that play, both structurally, how they were using so much of social media and just sort of, creating the theater that is social media and actually putting the theater to it. A black woman writer, and I just felt she was really kind of getting in the pulse of something that I believe she's 10 years younger than me, and so I felt like I was sort of, as someone who I remember when we got a computer, I had a life before Instagram, so it was interesting for me to read someone who really grew up where the sort of duality, triality, whatever of you're constantly what is your actual persona and who are you really, when so much of, I don't know, how we're categorized or even now even getting hired is dependent on what you're putting out and how many fucking followers you have.
Very real.
I guess I'll go mid-classic, but kind of contemporary, because we talked about her so much with so much love, but I'd say How I Learned to Drive by Paula Vogel. I just find it's it does not forgive the sin or the sinner, but it endeavors to see their humanity, which then in turn it offers compassion for the self that engaged with that person, and it just tries to see people through multiple prisms of who they are, and it it's so fucking moving, and it's like the structure is so gorgeous, and it's one of those like, oh, I feel less alone. It's okay to sort of, this can happen to you, and you can move forward, and like there's recovery is sometimes quite small and also seismic. And also you mentioned like places like where could they go? So I'm going to plug, like, if you have even a bit of $1, I would say like donate to Raíces, which is like legal defense for immigrants. That's what I would say to do. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Damn, this is hard. It's a hard question. But I think I'm gonna go with, for 800, I'm gonna go with Mary Seacole, which is right.
I loved that.
It's a Jackie Sibley's jewelry
It's
play.
so good.
Right?
It was so fucking good.
Right?
Yeah, it was so good.
So yeah, read it. Read it. And also, play reading clubs. People have book clubs, but having like play reading clubs is fun, and I think that's one of those plays too. We're talking a lot about erasure and making sure that we don't inadvertently erase ourselves or other playwrights who are femme that we love. And also it's about making sure that we get into the deeper cuts and dig in the crates on the playwrights that we love, or have heard about. So you might have heard about Fairview, but maybe you didn't see Mary Seacole. So like check
Mary Seacole. So I don't know if you can see like the actual filmed version of the
at
LC.
Lincoln
Or like
Center,
a
maybe?
because Liliana Blaine Cruz, who
Yes.
directed it, her work on it was like incredible.
So
like
good.
it was this like somehow was able to span like so many generations. Like that fucking play hit.
Right? Yeah, and it's based on a woman who was a nurse, basically a contemporary to Florence Nightingale, but Jamaican, and she's like huge in Jamaica, but nobody really knows about her here unless they have Jamaican heritage. So, but it's also about caretaking. It's about what that whole economy is and what that life is. Something that you write about, of course. And like when you're talking about that production, so people would be either in like what was the war they were fighting? Like the Crimean War.
I don't know. It was like some Protestant.
Right.
Like, I don't know. Like
It was-
I remember she was wearing like a black.
Yes.
Like full. Like,
Yes, with petticoats
Yeah,
and everything.
petticoats.
But everyone had pink sneakers on, which went with the whole
and then they would
pink
start
set.
being like, they would start like twerk. There would be like
Yes.
these weird moments where it would be
Yes.
like we were almost
You
like
guys
in
should just
a.
recreate it.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna
Go to the library and watch.
Totally. It's such a good play. And yes, Liliana just tore it up. Yeah. But yeah, I think also something that we can do is keep bringing people to theater who have never been to theater and don't think that it's for them. You can always find that little, rush ticket or that standing room ticket or that TDF or what is it, TKTS ticket, and get in on those like cheap discount moves. You can do that and bring them.
Yeah, today ticks.
Yeah.
Ticks.
Yeah. Today
So,
Ticks, right, exactly.
read
Thanks.
those plays. Go read their plays and their screenplays and listen to their albums and all the things. Engage with theater. Take your people to see theater. Martyna, can you remind me of the Legal Defense Fund?
Raíces.
Raíces. And
Yeah.
if you keep up with us at moreToTalkAbout.com/events, there's also a little survey, a QR code next to the table where you can leave a couple thoughts. Keep up with us, and we will share with you everything that's mentioned in this conversation, including the recording where you can get the resources and such.
Yeah. Can we also just say, like, I just want to hold some hands here for a second.
We're holding hands.
We're gonna hold because, woo. Okay. I'll go like, okay, yeah. It's just that. Okay. This is we're in a state of emergency, and we are interdependent. We need each other so badly right now to remember who we are and that we can't concede to this abuse of power.
Yes.
Absolutely not. So everything that you can do every day while caring for yourself and the folks around you, do it. And making art is another really important way to do it, but we have all these other ways as well. So every possible avenue you can, let's do it.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much. You're so incredible. I'm so thankful for you. And thank you all for being here.
Woo!